bottle rolled across the floor, still half full, but he didn't reach for it. He reached for her instead. She tried to step back, but the wall was behind her. She had nowhere left to move. His grip came fast, too fast. The dress her father forced her into tore from the shoulder down, and he smiled, like it was something owed to him. Her father's gambling had finally caught up to him. And she was the debt. Evelyn didn't scream. She knew no one would hear. Not here. Not in the bedroom of the man she was just married to. Some men wear boots and own land and think that makes them better. But it don't. Not when their soul is rotten. And their hands are used to hurting. That night, something was stolen from her. And she would carry that weight for the rest of her life. But what if that weight was growing? How do you love someone when the worst part of your past lives inside them? It was barely dawn when Jonas heard the knock. It didn't sound like a knock, really. More like something falling against the door. Soft. Hesitant. Like the wind. If the wind was scared to ask for help, Jonas pulled the door open with one hand, the other wrapped around the old shotgun that hadn't seen use since '76. He wasn't ready for what he saw. A girl barefoot, hair wild, blood caked to the side of her neck, wrapped in nothing but a dirty bedsheet. Her skin was bruised, scratched, and there was a look in her eyes that didn't belong to someone her age. She looked vacant, but watching, like an animal that had been chased too long, and had stopped running only because it had nowhere left to go. He didn't ask questions, just pulled off his coat and handed it to her. She held it for a second before wrapping it around herself. Her hands shook, but her voice didn't. "I'm not clean," she said. Jonas didn't flinch. He didn't nod either. He just turned and pointed toward the tack room behind the house. She walked like her body was about to collapse at any step. He poured her water, heated a kettle without saying a word. Something told him this wasn't just a lost girl. This was a mess made by a man who had power. The kind of man who thought rules were for other people. Jonas had seen it before. He'd fought that kind of man, out in the war, out in saloons, even in his own town. And now maybe, just maybe, that fight had come to his doorstep again. As the sun cracked over the Arizona dirt, Jonas sat on his porch, boots dusty and arms crossed. The shotgun rested against the wall behind him. He didn't know her name. He didn't need to, because whoever she was, someone was going to come looking for her. And this time, maybe they'd come to the wrong damn ranch. She hadn't been inside 10 minutes before the trouble came. Jonas had just set the kettle over the fire when the dog started barking low. Not panic, just a warning. He stepped outside. The morning sun was still climbing, heat rising off the dirt. And there he was, Ryder, coming hard down the trail, dust flying, purpose in every hoofbeat. Jonas didn't move, just watched. The man pulled up fast, big frame, scar down the cheek, gun on his hip, worn from use. "Saw a girl come through here," he said, "out blonde, barefoot. Might be wearing a sheet." Jonas squinted at him like he was squinting at the sun. "A girl, you lose your damn mind already today." The man didn't laugh. "She belongs to Mr. Greeley. Ran off this morning. She's his wife now. Paper signed and sealed. I'm just here to bring her home." Jonas didn't say a word. Not right away. He walked over, filled a bucket from the well, let it splash hard and slow. You see a scared girl in a sheet running through cactus and rock. You don't bring her home. You bring her help. That girl's got bruises on bruises, and the man she ran from ought to be ashamed to call himself anything but a coward. The rider's eyes narrowed. "You sure you want to be the man standing between Mr. Greeley and his wife?" Jonas looked him dead on. "I'm sure I ain't moving." There was a silence then, not the peaceful kind, the kind that builds just before things break. But the man didn't draw. He just smiled, the kind of smile that meant next time he wouldn't be alone. He tipped his hat like it was some kind of joke, then turned the horse around and rode off. Jonas stood there for a long moment. When he stepped back into the tack room, the girl hadn't moved, but her eyes were on him now, not wide with fear, but watching, trying to figure out what kind of man she'd just landed in the hands of. He set the bread beside her and walked out. And as he reached the porch, he took the old rifle down off the hooks, the one he hadn't touched in years. Because men like Greeley, they don't send just one dog. They come back, louder, meaner. And next time, they don't knock. Jonas didn't say much that day, never did. But he watched. The girl stayed in the tack room mostly. Didn't ask for anything. Didn't move much either. Like if she just stayed still, the world might forget she was there. He left food on the table by the door. Sometimes she touched it. Sometimes not. And every now and then, she'd glance out the window like something out there might grab her back. Around midday, she stepped out into the sun. Jonas was fixing the gate. Didn't look up right away, but he saw her in the corner of his eye. Still wearing his coat. Still walking like every step might hurt. She stopped a few feet from him. "Can I help?" He didn't answer right away, just handed her a small hammer. "You know how to swing one of these?" She shook her head. "Well, you're about to learn." It wasn't much. A few nails, a gate that still squeaked, but it was the first time she'd done anything that wasn't running or crying or bracing for the next hit, and that meant something. Later that afternoon, she sat with him under the porch roof. Didn't speak. Just watched the chickens scratch and the dust roll. She pointed at the horizon. "You think he'll come back?" Jonas didn't look at her when he answered. "I'd bet my last boot on it." She nodded like she already knew, but she wasn't shaking anymore, and Jonas noticed something else too. Her hands had stopped trembling. "Now look, if you followed this far and your gut's twisting the way mine did writing it, don't walk away now. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to make sure you don't miss what happens when that man comes back, because we both know he will. And when he does, it ain't going to be quiet." They came just before sundown. 3 horses, kicking up dust like thunderclouds. Jonas saw them from the porch. He didn't move, just rested one hand on the old rifle by the door. The air felt tight, like something was about to snap. Evelyn stood inside, half hidden by the curtain. She knew. It was him. Greeley rode front and center, dressed too nice for a man so dirty inside. His 2 muscle heads flanked him, both built like trouble and smelling like sweat and whiskey. Greeley dismounted slow, took off his gloves like he was somebody important. "Heard you been hiding my wife, McCready." Jonas didn't blink. "Heard you been beating what ain't yours to touch." The smile on Greeley's face dropped like a curtain. "That girl belongs to me. Papers signed. Law's on my side." Jonas stepped down off the porch, calm as morning. Law don't mean squat when a man's got no soul. The goons moved first. They always do. One rushed from the left, fast but dumb. Jonas pivoted, cracked him clean across the jaw with the rifle stock. The other drew iron, but Jonas was quicker. One shot, center mass, dust, silence. Greeley froze, pale and rattled. Still holding those gloves, Jonas walked up close enough for his breath to land heavy. "You listen and listen good. If I see your boots on this dirt again, I won't be aiming to scare. I'll be digging your grave right where you stand." Greeley didn't say a word. He backed toward his horse like a boy caught stealing. When they rode off, tail tucked, Evelyn stepped outside. She didn't look afraid anymore. She looked free, and for the first time in a long time, Jonas felt like something had been set right. A month passed. Quiet. No more riders. No more shadows on the trail. Just long days fixing fences and quiet dinners on the porch. Evelyn smiled more. Not often, but real. Then one morning, she didn't come out for breakfast. Jonas knocked. No answer. When he opened the door, she was sitting on the edge of the cot, hands pressed to her stomach. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. But he knew there was only one truth a look like that could carry. He sat beside her, didn't say much, just watched the dust hang in the air. Finally, she asked, "What do I do?" Jonas rubbed his hands together, looked out the window. "You let it live." She turned toward him, surprised. "Even if it's his, even then." She stared, waiting for anger or pity or something to push her away. But it didn't come. Instead, Jonas stood up slow. "You ain't broken. You're just beginning again." And And that baby don't carry his sin, only yours, only what you give it. She broke then. Not loud, just let her shoulders fall and her face lean into his chest. And he held her like something worth keeping. From that day on, there was no more hiding, no more silence. Jonas went into town with her, sat beside her in church, bought baby blankets from the same store Greeley once strutted into. Folks whispered, but folks always whisper. And Jonas didn't care, because in a world where men throw people away like scraps, he chose to hold on, even when it hurt, especially then. So let me ask you something. Could you do the same? Could you love what others call shame? Could you raise the child of the man who hurt her? Because sometimes being a man ain't about what you fight, it's about what you choose to keep. And if this story reached something inside you, don't leave it quiet. Hit that like button, tap subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to be reminded that the strongest men are the ones who protect what's been forgotten.